Hello, folks, and welcome back. This is Chris in England, along with Heinz Winckler, who's my guest today. Heinz is on the screen. I don't see myself on the screen. I should be showing up there. I'm not sure why I'm not showing up. But Heinz is in the background right there, and he's listening to everything we're saying. Heinz, goeiedag. Welcome to the program.
Goeiedag, dus lekker om hier te wees. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's great to be on your show. It's really an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure. Listen, Heinz, you and I were talking briefly off camera, and I said that I'll be asking you a lot of questions that a lot of South Africans are going to be saying, wait a second, does he know who this guy is? Well, understand that I have an international audience, and your name isn't necessarily an international name, although some people know
Of
it as.
course.
So, Heinz,
Yeah.
you kind of rose to fame in South Africa a couple days ago, that we'll say a couple days ago, as you tried out for I guess, the inaugural version of South Africa's Idols program. Is that true?
Yeah, 23 years ago, crazy enough. The first one in '02. And yeah, I was a student at the time at Stellenbosch University studying law, believe it or not. And I was doing music on the side. I enjoyed making music, playing guitar. I was in a couple of bands, a church band and one that would go out and play, sort of pubs and clubs as well. And this opportunity came up, and I was in a bit of a conundrum because I was already a Christian. I became a Christian when I was like 16, and this thing seemed like the ultimate dream opportunity, but it was literally called idols, something that the Bible has an issue with. So, but I felt this weird tug that I need to go. So after sort of lots of thinking and wondering, I just decided to go for it. And I said, I just prayed. I said, Lord, if you don't want me to do this, let me fall out in the beginning. But if this is you, take me all the way. And so I can honestly say it's a supernatural miracle kind of thing that I actually went all the way and won. Yeah,
Well, congratulations. So I've got to do something here
thank
very
you.
quickly. You're very welcome. Um,
Recording in progress.
we're live, but the recording wasn't there, so I'm going to miss the first couple minutes when I put this up on other platforms. Sorry about that. We had a lot of issues
No
with tech
worries.
this morning. All right, so yeah, look, I get you. I understand where you're coming from. The whole term idols is just something I always thought was kind of fishy. It's not. It's like when we talk about sports and people call them heroes. They're not heroes.
Mm,
They're
yeah.
sports icons. They're iconic. There's Michael Jordan was not a hero. What did he do heroic? He didn't save any kid from a burning building. He didn't dive on a grenade. He didn't rescue Christ from Calvary Hill. He didn't do that. He simply was an iconic sports hero. So I get where you're coming from with the idols thing. That's just it's kind of it's a little off-putting. But so what was that like, that experience? I mean, a few days ago, 23 years ago.
It was overwhelming, and it was life-changing. You know, going through that and having, my life completely changed and launching into a career in that and being in the spotlight, nothing could really prepare me for that. I was living in quite a very safe bubble in South Africa. I grew up quite conservative, and life was kind of just your little family, and just do your thing, do well in school, go to university, get a degree, be normal. That was kind of the bubble I was in. Deep down, I always felt like there's way more to this thing, but I couldn't articulate it. But then this happened, which is like completely out of left field, and decision to make, like, will I continue my studies or will I go full time into music? And I decided to go full time into music and got the record deal, started doing shows, and soon realized that I wasn't really ready for this on an emotional level, on a psychological level, on a physical level. Like, I had to do a lot of adapting, but I loved and still do love making music, and so my dream in that sense was coming true, and that part of it I really really enjoyed. The attention was kind of up and down, like you get attention from some people where you go, oh, that's nice, it's very cool, I don't mind taking a photo and giving an autograph, that's very cool, I love that you love my music. But then you get the people who take advantage, who screw you over, who want to, like, I suddenly realized that just because an older lady is an older lady doesn't mean she won't grab your bum randomly when you walk past her. It was the weirdest thing. I had to get used to a lot of interesting things. But overall, it was just an incredible experience. And, I was happy that now I had a music career and I was going.
You're still there?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm here. Just we had a little trouble with your feed there for a second there. So last we heard was the lady, the older lady's grabbing her bum. That was
Oh, I apologize. We're supposed to have very strong fiber here, so I apologize. No, yeah. So that was some of the weird stuff, but overall, it was a great experience. Yeah.
so, Heinz, one of the challenges, I've put us both on the screen now so that that'll reduce the bandwidth requirement for both sides coming in. So, Heinz,
Okay.
one of the things that people face when they're thrust into sudden fame is just everything there. And especially at a young age, if you're ready for it mature. I mean, we look at sports athletes who they've thrown hundreds of millions of dollars or pounds to pay football in the UK, because I'm in the UK right now, it comes to mind. They're
Mm,
throwing hundreds, they give them 170 million pounds. And then, 4 years later, they're bankrupt. They have no money because they weren't prepared for it. And then all the people come glomming onto them, all the
wow.
attention. Of course, some people, can't handle it. They wind up partying, doing drugs. As a Christian, I suspect that was obviously something that wasn't in your future, obviously. But I mean, I'm saying it probably wasn't a draw for you, but a lot of people deal with this in different ways. What was the
Mm.
sudden fame like for you, and what kind of challenges does it present?
For me, I was challenged on a level with regards to women. That was my weakness. I never struggled with alcohol or drugs. It was offered to me everywhere, all the time. Suddenly, like I realized, oh my word, this is crazy. But the thing that I struggled with as a Christian was, just the thing of all this attention from women, and I really had to battle through that. There was a time when I definitely went off the path. Fame got to my head. I allowed, those things to compromise me in many ways, and I look back and I'm not proud of that. I feel, I regret it, a lot of it. But even through those regrettable seasons, you are challenged. Your character is being shaped. Even though you fall off, you hopefully get back up. And what I was grateful for is having, men in my life who loved me. Brothers in Christ, my pastor, a few pastors in my life that really, I would I would disappear for a while, and then they know this is probably not going well, and then I would come back and then say, listen, I need to spend some time with you guys, and then they would just be, graciously firm but loving, and I did get to a point where I felt like I actually am a useless Christian. I'm not doing well. Like, I remember it was just like 3, 4 years into the game. I actually was at the top of my career in about 2005. I had a second album out and it was going well. Everything was falling into place. I was the guy to book for international acts when they came to South Africa. I got to do the biggest stadiums with my band. Everything that I dreamt of was actually happening in a big way. And I remember the one night after a big show, I went home, sat on my bed, and I had this thought, is that it? What now? Like, I've reached kind of what you can reach in South Africa in terms of fame and success in the music industry, and it felt empty. And I realized, in a way, I was like, I've been chasing this thing. I try to get it. I got it. Now what? And after that, I heard many people in sports and other arenas who had a similar experience. They reached the pinnacle of what they want to achieve, but that was the goal. Now what now? So I had a bit of I guess, an internal crisis, and I didn't process it as well as I should have. And towards the end of 2005, beginning of 2006, I had a bit of a moment, like a dark moment where I wanted to give up on being a Christian because I felt I was living two lives. I was trying to, put this face forward like I love Jesus and I go to church and I, do the right things, but I was caught up in darkness, in some areas. And it was a fight, it was a struggle, and I felt tired of that thing. And I got to a point where I realized I don't think I should even try anymore. So I literally wrote an email to my pastors and the men in my life, and I said to them, I quit. I quit Christianity, like you can. Like It's an option. And
I didn't know
and
that was a thing.
it's not a thing. I just felt like it's a thing for me in that
Okay.
moment, you know. So I wrote to them and I said, "I'm so sorry. Like I messed up. I feel like I have failed you. I have failed myself. I failed God, which is the worst. And I don't think this should go on. Like I don't want to waste your time anymore, you know." And and they all came back to me with the same response, like they almost had a meeting, but they didn't have a meeting, but it felt that way. So they all came back with, Heinz, I read your letter. All I can say is, I love you. God loves you. This is not the end. And and that was a profound moment in my life where it felt like I got saved again because the love that they showed and the grace that I experienced, knowing that I was wrong, and they didn't say I wasn't wrong. They just they loved me back to life. That was what it really felt like to me. And then everything changed. My mindset changed. My it was like a this sort of cloud of darkness in my mind lifted, and I could see everything more clearly. And it's also after that, immediately after that, I knew that Aletta, who I had known for a year, but had not been serious with her in any way because I was kind of dating her, kind of dating two other girls, and then she said to me, I can't do this anymore," and rightfully so. And that was partly why I was kind of in a depro, you know. Anyway, it's a very long story. I'm trying to give you the highlights, and then out of that whole experience, I knew that I knew Aletta was my wife. Like the last time I knew anything like that was when I knew I had an encounter with God. But this was I knew that I knew she was my wife. And then, long story short, I shared all of this with her. My life truly changed again, big time. And by the September of 2006, we were married. So it was all kind of linked to that big moment. But yeah, the industry can suck you up and hurt you and spit you out, and if you don't have a foundation that's strong, you know, and know who you are and why you're doing it. So yeah.
No, I think that's a critically important point for folks to understand. In the military, I reached the pinnacle of what I could do. The highest rank I could get was a full colonel. I reached that, and then people are like, so what? Well, if you look at life from the right angle, there's always the next big adventure in some way. But it sounds to me as if at that moment when you reached the pinnacle and you got to the top of Everest and you looked around and there weren't many people there, it was kind of lonely. And I suspect the response you got from the people that cared about you was a bit humbling. It sounds like it was a humbling experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also I think, you know, when your focus is what you can get out of it, what you can achieve, how that makes you look, how it makes you feel, then that's what you're going to get is all self all the time. And that's very empty. And
Uh,
and by
I,
by God's grace and yeah. So
I mean,
so after a while, I think through that moment and through the moments after that, I learned more and more that we're actually created to make a positive difference and contribution in the world. And it's only when we find what that is and we start doing that when we actually are fulfilled. The fulfillment doesn't lie in the achievements of stuff you gather and build for yourself. You know, to use a phrase from the Bible, treasures on earth. It's the treasures in heaven. It's the things where you are positively contributing to other people's lives, where you feel fulfillment. And so it took me a while to get there and to find a way because the music industry and songs, creating shows, it has that angle of you're only, you know, the saying in the industry is you're only as good as your last hit, you're only as good as your last show. So you're very much aware of performance, of pleasing people, of keeping the audience happy. And that's a hectic mindset to not fall into as a person, you know, and to build your identity around it. And for my personal experience was on many levels, I was always tested by God. I felt that why am I doing this and who am I if I can't sing? Who am I if I'm not able to make music anymore? And at one stage, this was now years later, I lost my voice for a while. It's like 3 months. And later in life, I lost a certain. Some people might not understand this, but I lost like a certain range in my voice. Like I couldn't go higher. My voice would just shut down. It was the weirdest thing. I had to go for all kinds of therapy, voice therapy and stuff like that. And in that moment, I had a, like a conundrum with who am I if I can't sing? And I was really faced with that thing. And I thought, if you asked me at the before that, hey, if you could ever sing again, would you be okay? I'm like, yeah, of course. But then it hits you, and it's like, I don't know if I really do know who I am if I can't make music. And it was a tough, tough, tough moment. I remember the one Sunday I was in church with my wife and my family, and I wanted to really just by faith, I said, Lord, today I'm really trusting you for healing, and I'm gonna just by faith, I'm gonna sing as I know I can sing, as just part of the congregation, and trust that, as I step out in faith, you will heal me. And then I started singing, and I was still stuck. I couldn't do what I know I can. And it actually, I cracked, and I walked out, and my wife came and sat with me, and I cried. And I felt like I felt depressed and down, but I also felt like a failure, like I don't, like I'm missing something or whatever. And out of that moment, I just felt uh, uh, it's such an amazing thing of God establishing me as a son, not for what I can do or what my abilities are, but just for who I am. And that helped me as a parent as well from that point forward, because I realized my children need to know that I love and accept them just because they are my children, not because of what they do or how they achieve at school. Because easily you can connect those things, like, ooh, they praise me when I have achievements. So my identity is in my achievements. And so all of that was just big, big character building stepping stones, And looking back, I don't want to go through it again, but I know that it was necessary. You know.
Well, it's kind of a trite phrase, but I've always kind of lived by this. Of course, you set goals, you want to achieve things.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not driven to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to
yeah.
an end state. But I've always said it's the journey, not the destination. I know that's a
Yes.
trite phrase, but really, it's what you do along the way. It's the acts that you take that make the difference and make the whole experience worthwhile for you and for others. And so I think that's important. Also, you're really talking about here a second act. And speaking of second acts, you're not just a musician and a singer. I believe you're also a preacher. Is that correct?
Yes, that came quite later in my life. I've been doing that now for 5 years, and it's a long story how that all came about. But up until the end of 2013, I was still in the music industry. I initially I was in the English pop music industry in South Africa, and then later I went over to the Afrikaans pop industry, which is massive in South Africa, as you'll know. And then at the end of 2013, I was coming to the end of a third album, and my wife and I just felt this shift, like we needed to. It's a long story, but it comes down to we felt it's time to move from. At that stage, we were living in Johannesburg. She's from there. I'm from Stellenbosch, but I'd lived there 10 years in that time. Met her. We had our first two children. She was pregnant with our third, and and it felt like there was a shift, and we felt led to move to the Cape. So we moved to Somerset West at the beginning of 2014, and that was really the start of a whole big shift, because I felt led to do a bunch of seemingly crazy, it doesn't make sense kind of stuff by faith. The first one was moving to the Cape. When you're in the music industry, and my wife is in the image consulting industry and also a speaker and an author, everybody says you have to be in Joburg. That's where the industries are at, and it's true. It was, and it was back then anyway. And and we just felt, no, we have to go to the Cape. And then shortly after that, just after my third son was born, I felt a conviction to leave my record label, which is, to those who don't know, it's like saying no
Ooh.
to a free 750,000 Rand loan. You're just like, no, thank you. I don't need this. So it was a really big decision, but I just felt that's what I need to do. And it was hard. It was a tough decision, but I knew I had to do it. So I left my record label. And then the third thing was we were trusting God for a home, and we had this picture that he gave us that is said we will have a safe haven for our family and a base of operations for our calling. So that's a big house because we've got three children. We knew a fourth was coming, And my wife needs offices, I need a studio. So we were trusting for that. And then the third step of faith was buying a house and refurbishing it to be the place we wanted it to be, which was a massive leap of faith for us. And I won't get into the detail of why, but it was a big step of faith. And then the fourth thing happened about a year later, where out of this whole process of going away from a label, I felt I'm going to try crowdfunding because that was a thing back in at that time. So I wanted to crowdfund my next album, and that was hard enough. And I was aiming to make another Afrikaans pop album with crowdfunding. And then as I was just getting into that process and already raising funds, I had a profound experience over a few months. I had about 8 different people tell me the same thing, which randomly, like it was like they had a meeting, but none of them knew each other. I saw it as prophetic words, and it just said that basically came down to I need to make a shift from uh, commercial pop music to Christian music, and so I did that, and then informed the guys who were supporting me, this is what I believe I have to do. Only 2 people dropped off the crowdfunding, and the rest stayed. And I was able, and then God supernaturally provided the rest of the money and I was able to write and produce the album in Nashville with a friend of mine who was living there. And it ended up being this incredible album. It's called The Roar, and it came out in 2016. And that really started a shift into a different direction where I would start almost like a traveling ministry. I would go to churches, share my story, share my songs, and that became a thing. In about the third or fourth church that I visited, I ministered in 2 of the services, and then the pastor, while we're having lunch, he said to me, "So, when are you planting a church?" And I started laughing. I was like, "Ha, that's not me, man. I'm not called for that, blah, blah, blah." He looked at me very intensely, very serious. He said to me, "I see it on your life." And that really stuck with me. And he invited me to a church planting conference a few months later, and I reluctantly went. And then I heard someone speak. It was the leader of Church of the Highlands, and he said he was here from the States, and he said a thing that really changed my life in a big way. He said, "A life-giving church should be a place where lost people get saved, saved people get healed, healed people discover their callings, and then they are sent into those callings, and all 4 people should feel welcome on a Sunday." And I was like,
Wow.
that's amazing. And that really stirred something inside of me. And for the next 2, 3 years, that didn't leave me. And I started feeling, sensing just a shift. And very long story short, one of the reasons I started looking at changing things up is that I had been doing for almost 4 years. I had been doing this traveling ministry thing, and I went to the Lord and I said, "I love doing this, but I feel like I'm not reaching enough people, and I'm not bringing enough bacon home. Like I've got a wife, I've got kids. This is great, but in South Africa, traveling to churches, some can't pay you, some do, but they give you very little. And there's only so many Sundays in a year. I was used to doing 100 to 120 shows at a full pay rate. Now I'm doing like 34, maybe 35, and it's just not cutting it. And I said, I want to walk in my calling. I want to walk by faith, but Lord, we need to put food on the table. Thank God my wife is a businesswoman, but I don't want that pressure all on her. And from that discussion, I felt things start moving in a direction. And we started a little organization, and we thought, okay, we're going to be proactive and try to reach more people with this kind of ministry. And then we started setting things up for 2019, in 2019 for 2020. 2020 started looking great. At the end of 2019, I was looking at my calendar for 2020. It's like, man, we've got so many bookings. This is looking great. For the first time in 4 years, we're like, woohoo, this is great. The thing of planning a church was, in the back of my mind, but I was just excited about 2020. We were like, 2020, hashtag year of plenty, and the whole thing. And then we got into 2020. February was still awesome. I was even at a big church conference in Joburg, and I had a great prophet speak an amazing word over my life, and things were looking up. My daughter was just born in January of 2020, and then March came, and then everything changed. And I was like, what do we do? Because my wife and I both our lives were built upon events and people gathering. Now you can do none of that. So it was crazy. But then God provided in a miraculous way through an online course my wife was doing. It's a long story, but I won't get into that. And then we were now at home, and I was doing a lot of stuff online, learning about streaming, and this kind of stuff was then still kind of new to many people. And through that process, I did a lot of praying and waiting on the Lord. And then at one point when we could get out of the house a little bit, I said to my wife, I need to go and pray for 2 days. And I just went away and I saw a little place. You know Hermanus? You've been to Hermanus, right?
Yes, every time I'm there, those stupid whales are never there.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But near there is a place called Himmel en Aarde, heaven and earth. It's a really beautiful valley, and I saw this little. You can stay on a farm like beneath or between the trees and a little house thingy. So I booked that and I went. And on the way, I'm like, Lord, you need to speak to me. I need to know. Do you want me to plant a church? And if I do, is it part of something? Is it something new? Like, those are my main questions. So I got to the farm and I booked into this little place, and it was like a off the grid caravan. And when I got there and I opened and I walked around the little thingy and I wanted to open the door, there was a bronze emblem on the side that literally said Shepherd's Hut.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a message to me.
And I was like, no way. And so that was like sign number one, and then long story short, I just felt God confirm, plant a church, and it's something new. And I still thought years from now, like there's a lot that needs to happen, blah blah blah. But that was about June, July of 2020. In October, I felt God say plant in November, and then in November, on the 20th of November 2020, we planted Love Key Church in Somerset West. And now, it's 5 years later, and God has just been doing amazing things. So it's been quite a ride, and I love it. It's also been hard many times, but I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in this season. I still lead worship, I still make music, but teaching the word is now my main focus. So, yeah.
That's quite an interesting story and aspect to how you got to there. Let's shift gears back to the music for a few moments. I want to talk about a couple things there. The
All right.
shift, one of the viewers that made this mention earlier said a lot of people start with gospel and shift to pop. They get looked at kind of weird. But artists who start in something like pop or rock and then shift later to gospel, that's not really the situation. I think one exception to that was Elvis. Elvis did gospel early on and then went into pop, but people didn't know him from gospel because he was singing in church
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then once he was huge, he went back to doing gospel. Not that he ever stopped, but he put a big focus on it. And gosh, Elvis is some of the best gospel music ever recorded. And I think you and I might have talked about this when I was on your program. I knew Elvis Presley as a small child. I was running around Graceland and met him. He was absolutely amazing. One of the best human
Wow.
beings I've ever met in my life. It's such a sad tragedy where his life went and how he was influenced and the decisions he made. But I
Yeah.
knew Elvis before he blew up. This is around circa 1970, the summer of 1970.
Wow.
Yeah, on
Sure.
Graceland. It was pretty wild. But
That, that's amazing.
that's a huge shift. In South Africa, especially where Afrikaans pop performers are beloved by their audiences. I mean, you had Teens Jordan, Juanita du Plessis, Steve Hofmeyer. These are artists that people just will cross, the Karoo to go watch them play on foot.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
did that was that a huge? I mean, look, do you still have the tiny groupies facing you around, or is that all gone now because you switched to gospel?
No, that definitely started to dissipate, after a while. There's, like anything, there's hype and it lasts a while, but it's not forever. I'll never forget a couple of years ago, I was in a clothing store with my sons, and my middle son, he looked at me and he said, Dad, so when you used to be famous, did people come up to you and ask for your autograph? So, so yeah, that should answer your question. Um,
That should sting a little bit, Dad. When you used to be famous.
yes, yes, yeah, and he's the one that he's got this. he reminds me the most about of myself. Like he's a real performer. He plays guitar and he wants to be cool, and he's attracted to everything that's shiny and exciting, and I'm he's the one I pray for the most probably. but but he
Got to keep an eye on
he
that one.
yeah, but he often he's asked me, "What, Dad? Can't you just go back? Can't you just go back to being super famous? Like, don't you miss it?" And I said to him, "You know what? I never did it for the fame. I can honestly say I didn't do it for fame. I did it because I loved making music and I wanted to reach as many people as possible. Fame was a byproduct that I needed to manage, and at times I didn't manage it well. Fame is something to handle, not something to aim for. You can use it, but it oftentimes uses you. So we have to be very careful. But yeah, I forgot your original question. Sorry,
No,
but
we were talking about the shift from
music,
pop
yeah, the shift.
to gospel.
So yeah, so the one of the sort of there's two music genres that if you shift to it from the mainstream, people think you have failed. So if you shift to gospel or if you shift to children's music, people go, "Oh, shame," they're not doing
Although
so
I
well.
would get that with children's music, I would be going, "Oh, shame too." It was a
Yeah.
nice ride.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm
I
gonna
hope you
sing
put
to
money away for your retirement.
yes. And I've done both, not because I felt that's my only option. It's because my wife and I did a children's project, and I helped her with it. I produced the music, and I sang on a few songs. So we've done that. But the gospel thing, technically, gospel is actually a very specific genre of music. That's actually, in my opinion, very unique to America. It's got that, the gospel choir. That's kind of the sound that I think gospel music is. And then you get Christian contemporary, you get worship music. Within Christian music, there's a very wide variety of genres as well. I went for what's known as contemporary Christian music. And I went for English, which is because I felt that's what I needed to do, and I did get criticized. I did get people who thought that was weird, but I also got a lot of people who really supported it and loved it and thought I should have done it a long time ago. So I got mixed responses, but ultimately it's not as commercial. You don't make as much money out of it as you would with Afrikaans music. I was never on the level of a Steve Hofmeyer or a Tien Jordan with Afrikaans, but I had a few number ones. I had a gold album and I had a gold album and platinum album. So I did fairly well, but not on that level. And I enjoyed making Afrikaans music, but it's a very different culture, genre. There's a lot of pressure to do things a certain way that I just really pushed against a lot. And my record label often was frustrated with me because they wanted to put girls in bikinis in swimming pools and all of my videos, and I was just like, that's not my thing, man. I can't promote that. That's not who I am.
Oh,
And it would
I
be
can
like,
get that from Snotcop. It's all available on Snotcop.
yeah, that's his vibe, and it's very interesting because it's nothing like the person. It's more like the character that he plays. But anyway, we won't
Exactly.
go into that. Um, so it's a very I to be honest with you, there was a big sigh of relief when I left the commercial side of things, just because the culture is in many ways, unfortunately, it's a bit toxic, and I don't miss that part of it. I don't miss that part of it, but I do miss sometimes having a great performance on a big stage with lots of people that just love music. That I do miss that sometimes, but I still make music, as I said, and I do it for a different reason now. I definitely got to a point where I didn't just want to entertain anymore. Because I entertain you now, you feel good now, but tomorrow you wake up and you still have the same problems you had last night. And then you have to go to another show to feel better. Whereas now I feel I'm focusing on a place where, you know, if the music and the message I can bring can help you encounter God and change your life, then that has a lot more meaning and a lot more eternity value. And that for me is now way more important and way more um, exciting and beautiful to see than to just entertain. There's nothing wrong with just entertaining, but I felt a shift for myself from that season to what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Well, but Heinz, which you allude to there is something that that comes with the fame, and that is we talked about drugs and we talked about alcohol earlier, but that kind of an addiction. You like you need to fix the next performance in order to
Yeah.
get up again. So it's good to hear that you didn't fall into that, or if you started to go that way, you got out of it, you found a way out. There's a super chat here I need to address very quickly from El Marie Mayer. She says, "Hi Heinz, you and my nephew Quentin Delport know each other. He's now in England in the Anglican Church."
Yes. That's so cool. I just saw hello Elmarie. I just saw Quinn a couple of months ago in England. We were both at the Alpha Course Leadership Conference at the Royal Albert Hall, and it's going well with him. Yeah, he's now. I couldn't believe it. He's a vicar
Yeah,
in the Anglican Church.
that's the term here, a vicar. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, and he was also in a Christian band in South Africa back in the day. Like
oh,
when my brother and I were young Christians, we listened to them MIC. It was this cool band from KZN. So Quinn was one of the members. Oh, that's such a small world. My goodness.
apparently it is. You talk about the ability to make a living from the Christian contemporary sort of thing. In America, in some ways, because the market's so large and we have such a huge Christian community, it actually is a way for some people to make a lot of fame, a lot of fortune. Of course,
Yes.
Amy Grant comes to mind, and that's how I was really introduced to Christian contemporary was through Amy Grant, and I found just Amy Grant's just amazing. She's put out some amazing music over the years, and
Yeah.
stuff that really touches the heart. But I mean, that's a massive market. Now, you've never gone to the States to perform, have you?
I've gone there to record, to write. I've tried to meet the right people and to get a foot in the door when I was working on that first album and when I was working on a second album. So I've tried. I've met with some great people. I've written with some of the top songwriters in the CCM space, and there was a time when I was dreaming of going to the States, getting a green card, and going big. And that dream got shattered and actually caused me to go into a little bit of a slump for a while. But in that moment, I felt God come to me and speak to me and just say to me, "There's a reason why you're a South African, and my path is not supposed to be through the US." And I made peace with that. It was hard because I had this dream, uh, and sometimes your dream doesn't align with God's dream, and it's okay. And I had to deal with that. But now looking back, I realize that God was actually He was protecting me, guiding me on a specific path, and I mean, the biggest thing I've probably learned over the years is to trust His sovereign will, which is really hard at times because we think we know better, but He sees the end from the beginning. And yeah, but to answer your question, I, I I've had opportunities. I tried my best. I gave it my all. It didn't work out the way that I would have wanted it to, and I've had to make peace with it. But I'm very happy and content with where I am right now.
Well, there's a couple people that mentioned this in the chat that my volume's low. Folks, please appreciate what I'm doing here. I'm in England on my laptop. Heinz can hear me. That's the key thing. I cannot control the volume. I had to spend 48 minutes fixing the software just to be able to do this. So my apologies. That Heinz and I'll do this again once I'm in proper studio, I'm sure. But please be patient. I'm shouting into the microphone as it is now. Anyway, but the second thing about that, Heinz, is that a little news for you. You may have heard that President Trump has got a refugee program for South African racial minorities, and there are a lot of Afrikaners that are trying to, leverage that to get a chance to live in the States. And I can point to
Yeah.
several clusters of Afrikaners who are now in the States. And what I'm saying is that we've already had probably 80 or 100,000 Afrikaners there to begin with, and we do have occasional Afrikaans music festivals in the States. So don't give up on that dream just yet. There might be an opportunity for you to come to the States and perform.
Yeah, if I guess if I can convince them, I'm a refugee, maybe they'll allow me to go.
Oh no, no, you don't have to
Yeah,
come as a refugee. Come as a musical performer and entertain the refugees.
all right. I hear you. I hear you. I I totally hear you. I just think, and yeah, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think it's interesting when people go overseas from South Africa to perform to South Africans, because then you've not really gone international. You've just gone to another country to sing to Afrikaans people. So we've had many people that go to Australia, New Zealand, England, and they go, I'm now an international artist. You're like, you sang to Afrikaans people in a different country. So it's not really the same, to make it in another country, for them to actually play your songs on their radio and they come for you. That's a whole other thing. And we have had South Africans who've achieved that, which is amazing. But that said, I wouldn't mind singing to a South African crowd anywhere in the world. That would be awesome. I just won't think that I've now made it internationally. I would just think I had an opportunity to sing to South Africans. Maybe
Well,
I'm
it's
nitpicking, but
no,
yeah.
no, you're not nitpicking. I mean, honestly, if we're honest, Perth is simply Somerset Southwest, East.
I've heard that. I've heard it's like, South Africa on the coast of
That's what
Australia.
Australia, yeah, exactly. That's what Perth is. And what I'm getting at is we're gonna have a few spots like that in America the way things are going. So maybe we can do it. But you're right.
Yeah.
It's different if you've struck it big and let's say you perform in different languages, like in German as a South African and English and Afrikaans, and you make it big in Europe or Japan or the U.S. That's very different than performing for Afrikaans speaking audiences. But I think both should be very
Yes.
fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, I look at someone like the Kifness here in South Africa, who has built a whole career on YouTube and social media, and he tours the UK, Ireland, like he goes Europe, and he does sold out shows with, he wrote these funny songs about cats, and,
Yeah, okay.
and
Let's
he's just
not get into that. I mean, I don't get the appeal of the cat videos. They're not my
But
cup of tea.
he's a really creative producer and artist, and he's also very outspoken online. I don't know if you follow him, but
I do, I do. We
yeah,
have a fake a dispute going on.
a fake dispute. All right,
Yeah.
yeah. I
No,
mean, I saw
he
he.
wouldn't come on my show. They blew me off when they weren't big. I offered them. Now they're big and they never come on the show. So, but I haven't asked again.
I've asked him as well, and he just hasn't had time. And he lives in Plet apparently now, so
Yeah,
it's I can't get him into studio. But I was very impressed with him. I see he lost a big contract yesterday because he
he did.
supported Charlie Kirk and the whole thing.
Well, but I mean,
That's so
I don't know
sad.
that that's actually what
Oh,
happened. I mean, from my perspective, he simply said that this is a person who stood up for nonviolence and discourse, and because of that, he's getting canceled. I mean, that's ridiculous. We're seeing both sides of that. Not to get too far into politics, but in the U.S., a lot of people who are acting ghoulish, in celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, are losing their jobs, and people argue about free speech. Well, if you're a primary school teacher or a police officer or a soldier or a government official working in bureaucracy and you celebrate the death and say they deserved it and try to that's not the kind of people we want inculcating our children or running our military or leading our police
exactly.
forces. It's different
Yeah.
if you work for a private business, that's their call if you bring discredit to their business or cost them business. But that's really sad. But to see people who simply say that a person of faith was murdered because they believed in discussion, and then you lose contracts because of it, and you lose your job because of it. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't. It doesn't. No, but I mean, a lot of the reactions to this thing has been really sad and crazy. At the same time, there's been very positive reactions, which I am grateful for. But sure, it's been a hectic week in that sense, seeing the fallout of that. What do you make of the whole thing, Chris? I haven't watched your videos on Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry, but
Well, no, I haven't.
I'd
I
lo-
haven't done much. I'm trying not to exploit it. I mean, there's content creators that are absolutely exploiting the assassination of Charlie Kirk
yeah,
with endless videos. I found out about it through one of my moderators. I mean, literally minutes after he was shot, and I
sure.
quickly went and got as much information I could and did a short, just as kind of a breaking news to let people know. And that was when
Mm,
he was wounded. But then when he passed away, I did one a little bit later on to let people know because everybody was asking. Since then, I've mentioned a couple times in the title, and I've discussed, the events up the lead up. But from my perspective, it's horrific. I mean,
sure.
the media calling him an extreme right winger, that's not true. He was a
Yeah,
Christian, a person of faith, and he was center right. As far if you look at the UK and Tommy Robinson, you want to call him extreme right. Okay, I'll buy that. But calling Charlie Kirk extreme right because he believes in the sanctity of life, I mean, that's not extreme right. I mean, that's a liberal value. I mean, life,
yeah,
the concept of the unborn being protected, that's our responsibility. The problem is with the people on the other side of the political aisle. If you talk anything about a child in the womb, they become fanatical and they call you
yeah.
extreme right wing. When
Mm,
that's God's creature. It's life. You don't have the right to end that. You have no prerogative to do that. So So because of that, and because he was a staunch defender of the Second Amendment, which is meant to protect us from the tyranny of the government, it's not for any other reason. That's why we have it, and our
Yeah.
founders knew that. He was considered extreme right. I disagree, and they all gleefully excited about. Well, he was, he died by the sword the way he talked. No, that's just horrible.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And if what I liked about Charlie Kirk, look, I didn't like him personally. I thought he was arrogant. But you know what? A lot of
Okay.
successful people have to be arrogant. That's just who they are. I mean, Donald Trump is arrogant. He's incredibly successful. But the thing is that the reason I didn't like Charlie Kirk so much was because I tried to join or assist Turning Point USA over a dozen years ago when it first came about, and they blew me off because I was over the age of 30. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, you should watch the movie Logan's Run. You too will be over the age of 30 one day, or maybe you won't be. So the point. So anyway, so I just stopped. I never got over that. I was kind of irritated about that. But
Okay.
I respected and liked his approach. He would Crowder would go on campuses, and Crowder would be kind of Stephen Crowder would be snarky with people. It was entertaining, but Charlie would go and say, "Prove me wrong." Okay,
Yeah.
what topic do you want to talk about? You want to talk about
Yeah.
this? You want to talk about that? Now, tell me your position, and I'll tell you mine. And he was almost never wrong, and I love that
Yeah.
about what he did, and that's why he was a threat,
Yeah.
because there are people in this world that don't want conversation, they don't want discourse, because their beliefs are demonic, they're twisted, they're sick, they're morally wrong, and they know it. They absolutely
Yeah.
know it. I mean,
Yeah.
just today or yesterday, Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii was caught in another lie. So months ago, she attacked Republicans for trying to protect girls in sports with Title IX by, trying to keep transgender athletes out of girls' sports. And she attacked them, saying that they're morally wrong, yada, yada, yada. Women are the same, transgender, they have no advantage. And then yesterday, she tried to grill Kash Patel, the FBI director, and said, now, you've instituted pull ups. Now, that's not fair. Women are physiologically weaker than men. Excuse me? Didn't you just say that there's no difference a few months ago? So, see,
Really?
the thing,
Oh my
Heinz,
goodness.
I don't know if you know Bill Engvall. He's an American comedian. He's pretty entertaining. You should check him out, Bill Engvall. And it's pretty clean humor for the most part. But Bill Engvall
Okay.
has this little bit about stupid people should wear signs. He says, stupid people should wear signs. That way you wouldn't ask them questions. Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't see your sign. So Maisie Hirota should wear. See, you don't even know the bit. You're laughing, and I didn't even
Ah,
do it very well. But
that's
yeah, no.
funny.
So the whole thing is really disappointing in so many ways. First off, a bright light has been extinguished for
Yes.
Christian for Christians. A beaming bright light has been extinguished for conservatives. A voice of reason, a voice of calm, a voice of debate is gone, and the world is a poorer place for it. And it was so unnecessary, so
Yeah.
unnecessary. It's sad that people would resort to that sort of thing. And of course, the
Yeah.
crowd that didn't grow up with firearms, that know nothing about firearms, are the ones that are going on and on about this. The gun killed him. The gun didn't kill anybody. An evil person killed him.
Yes.
That was the tool that person chose to use. And in Berlin, at a Chris Kindle mark, the evil person chose to get a panel van to drive over 50 people and kill them. And in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in Wisconsin, Waukesha, Wisconsin, they drove through a Christmas parade and killed all those people, evil people.
Yeah.
They'll use poison, they'll use knives, they'll use guns, they'll use whatever's at
Whatever
hand.
they can. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can't blame it on guns. That's stupid. Anyway, that's
No.
kind of my thoughts. Let me get a couple super chats and I'll let you get back in here. Bernie gave 14 Rand. Clouds are gathering. Tata, listen, Tata. Clouds are gathering. Super chat. And then Bonnie, I think it's Duplessis, gave 35 Rand. Thank you for that, both. So, Heinz, that's kind of my take on it. It's sad. That's my big point.
Mm, yeah, it is. And I mean, there's so much to look at and to try and figure out why did this happen. But I don't know how you can look at this tragedy and celebrate it in any way. I mean, that's just broken when that happens. And I look at it, he left a wife behind, two little children. Their lives are forever changed in a negative way. Um, but yeah, it seems like, as a world, there's a big part of us that we've lost our soul. We've lost our real sense of humanity. And it's sad. It's telling. It's telling of where we are at. Um, but there's also a glimmer of hope when you see how it's now motivated and catalyzed many other people that go, whoa, okay, Charlie is not there anymore. Okay, I'll put up my hand. I'll do what I can. And I've seen about three testimonials of people who were not Christian, didn't believe, and said, listen, because of what happened, I suddenly saw the stark contrast between the two sides. And it made me go, I don't want to be on that side. Like, and actually, a few people said, I went to buy a Bible and I went to church because of what happened. And I'm like, well, if that's happening, that's positive. And so there's both. We're seeing both happening at the same time. As I think it's Charles Dickens that said, we live in the best of times, we live in the worst of
Right.
times. It's always a bit of both. Yeah.
Well, and, you talk about if we take anything positive, if it's possible to do such a thing. You've just talked about a few of those people turning towards God, people stepping forward.
Mm,
But one example here, Turning Point USA has been around for I think 15 years, or 2012, 2011 was formed, about that time frame. I was in Africa at the time. Or no, I was in Stuttgart when it went up, and then I went to Africa. I went to Uganda from there. But they have 900 chapters on U.S. colleges and universities and 1,200 chapters at high schools. They have received, in the 48 hours after he was assassinated, 32,000 applications for universities and high schools to open chapters for Turning Point USA.
come on.
That you can't make this up. That's absolutely
Wow.
amazing. And this is
Sure.
why they wanted to silence him, because he galvanized youth in
Yeah.
two different ways. He brought many people to Christ,
Yeah.
and he also brought many people back to conservative politics. They always
Yes.
talk about that
Especially young men, which
exactly, yeah.
I'm excited
Well, and
about.
it's
Yeah.
something that Charlie Kirk has influenced that people don't talk about at all, but it's true. Young black men, a lot of young black
Yes. Yeah. Mm, absolutely. Yeah. Sure. Mm. Yeah, there's a uprising, a good uprising in South Korea. The turnout in London yesterday, 2 days ago, was like 3 million people. Of course, the legacy media just said 150,000, but it was a massive rally. You were there. I don't know. You probably saw something. Oh, oh, okay, okay. All right. Well, it seemed quite impressive, the reaction, the positive reaction, which is that's something to look positively at. So, yeah.
Okay,
It's
can you
strange
guys
that
hear me?
I can hear you and they can't.
Yeah,
It
that is
doesn't
very
make
strange.
sense.
So I've just tried something new, and they might be able to hear me now. Yeah. Okay. Can you
All
guys
right.
hear me now? Give me some feedback. I've added another device, so sorry about that. Yeah. Thank you guys. Okay, back. Yeah. Look. I'm in a third world country called the United Kingdom. It's horrible, guys. I mean, it's just things don't work here. So, but okay.
Uh,
So folks, when this is over and I get back to States, I'll download this, and it'll all be recorded in Zoom except for the first 2 minutes, and then I'll upload this as an alternative so you can hatch the sound. So I didn't say fourth world; I said third world. Okay, okay. I'm sorry. I'm politically incorrect. It's a developing world. How's that?
yeah, that's better.
All right, but Heinz, yeah. So anyway, it's so listen. The church that you've built there in Somerset West. Do you have a big following? Is it popular? Is it gaining popularity? Does it wax and wane? I mean, because when you're out there, in that world, people lose interest for different reasons in life. Some people are very dedicated, and people come and go. So what's it like in your church? I mean, not to get too churchy on you, but just to ask the question. I think it's an interesting story.
Yeah, well, we're in an area that's you can probably say it's over evangelized. There's a lot of churches around. I've heard different statistics, and that was actually one of my questions when I felt the God tell me to plant a church in Somerset West. I'm like, aren't there enough? Uh, and then I just felt led to ask this question: Is if every church in the Helderberg area, which is the three towns near each other here, Somerset West, Strand, Gordons Bay, if all the people who live in all these towns sorry, the question was, if all the churches in these areas are full on a Sunday, is everyone in the Helderberg in church? And I was like, no, there's not enough space. And then I felt God said, so there's work to be done. So that was kind of what got me there. And when you listen to these people who know a lot about church planting and growth, a healthy, flourishing local church has about 400 to 500 members, and they have strong leadership. They've got teams that are running, and they've got connect groups that are going. Then you're in a very healthy space. We started probably with about 30 odd people the first Sunday. The rest that were there were family and friends that came to support. And we doubled in a few months. And then with the COVID lockdowns and stuff, we saw a bit of fluctuation. But once things opened up, we saw some good growth. And we had a good trajectory, and then I had a very negative experience a couple of years ago. I had basically, in a way, we had a church split, which was something I never thought I would go through. But I remember pastors advising me, saying, "You'll probably experience your first split within 3 years." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" That's and I should have seen it coming, but yeah, it was kind of led by one guy that first came close, built himself up in leadership. I thought he was helping, and then he turned against me and turned people against me, and then there was this massive shift that happened, which was really, really difficult. And I almost gave up after that, but God gave me 2 Timothy 4, which just says, preach the gospel, keep going, you can do this. And I'm like, I'm standing on that word. And since then, we first went through a lull, but this year we've seen good steady growth, and our membership is probably at about 150, and our average attendance is between 120 and 160 on a Sunday. It depends on how it goes. So in an area where there are many options and people do church hop a lot, we are seeing a lot of people come and stay, but we do see those who come and go. Unfortunately, many people see church kind of like restaurants or shops. They're like, I'm going to see if I like this church, if I like the music, if the service is long enough. So they look at like very superficial things to choose a church. I personally believe one should say, Lord, where do you want us to be? And then you should stick there and be a part of, the teams and help the leadership. That's my conviction. But we do find that people do that. What we also see often now is there's a big semi-migration happening from Gauteng to the Western Cape. So we have a lot of people who their stories are, I recently moved here and I've been looking for a church. And then many people who stick with us, they say 2 things. They say, we felt very welcome and loved when we came here. And then this is the first church where we found that you preach the word of God. It's not one verse and a motivational talk. It's actually, taking scripture, reading a lot of scripture, and preaching from the word of God. Which to me, I'm like, that's obvious. Like I thought that's what everyone's doing, or should be doing. But we do get those comments a lot. So the people who come and stay are the ones who want to hear the word of God, and they want to feel loved, welcome, and in a warm family environment. And that's what we intentionally try to create. When I felt God lead me to do this, the values that we have, well, first love key comes from the idea that, the key to salvation is the revelation of how much God loves us. So that's the first key. That unlocks salvation. The key to living the life that God has for us is to love him back. And when we love him back, we will obey him and we will build relationship with him. And so we are a church where we create an environment where people can encounter God so that they can align with his purposes for their lives in order to reign in life in different areas so that they can help others to encounter God, align with his purposes, and reign in life. And that's discipleship. So that's the environment that we aim to create. And we do that through worship, through the word, but also through the connect groups that we have where people get together in the week. We've got a group for men, we've got a group for women, and then we have teams that serve on Sundays and throughout the week. And everybody that grabs hold of those opportunities are the ones who I see grow the most and mature the best. Oh,
Well, Heinz, you mentioned something about the church there. I use the term schism. I think that's maybe a good term. And it's
yeah,
fascinating because while you were talking, I drew this connection, a parallel between certain groups. I often talk about Afrikaners, and not in a mean way, but a way that most Afrikaners would understand, in that, if you get 10 Afrikaners in a room, you'll have 12 leaders. If you get 10 Afrikaners in a room, you'll have 20 ideas and zero execution. And if you get 10 Afrikaners in a room, two of them will betray you to the English. So, so,
sure.
and
It's
so
it's it's hectic, but it's probably true.
it's probably true. But you know what? Drawing along that parallel, Christianity is a faith of the same way. People are forever dividing themselves into smaller groups and breaking away. Someone's got to be in charge. Someone's got to have a different idea. I mean, you look at Christianity. I mean, when it came to Rome, and then the church split with the Byzantine Empire, with the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church, and then we have the Protestant Reformation with Zwingli in
Mm,
Switzerland and John Calvin and Martin Luther. And then after that, the Reformation, then we have Henry VIII because he just wanted to get divorced, creates his own Anglican church for forever, and now my own church, the United Methodist Church, has just had a schism over having gay rights issues, and so most of
sure.
the people that are in my church are now aligned with African Methodists because they're much more conservative. So United Methodist Church went through a major,
Interesting.
yeah, they went through a major schism just a couple years ago where the church was
Wow.
split in half, and it was one of the largest denominations in the Protestant faith. At times I think that it just must be a natural human tendency to divide, to go in your small little tribe somewhere and go off by yourself. I'm not talking about your church. I'm drawing a parallel with the schism here. When they
Yeah.
told you that you're going to experience this, and you're like, what? Well, you did experience it.
Yeah. No, it's there are good reasons for those things to happen in the sense of if it's for biblical reasons that the one says, listen, this is not in line, we can't do that, but the others still decide to do that, then it's inevitable. But when it is about silly things, like, I mean, I know that some traditional Afrikaans churches split because we want to wear ties, but you don't want to wear ties.
Yeah.
Or we're only going to sing hymns, but you want to sing psalms and hymns. Those are reasons that some people have split, and that's just silly. So, but when it is about someone wanting to go into a, theologically wrong direction, and there are those who say, we're going to stick to the truth, that's unavoidable if the other side doesn't want to repent and turn back. And when it comes to things like, listen, we want to marry gay people, that's clearly against the word of God, clearly not something that can be allowed in a Christian church. And unfortunately, some churches, like the Dutch Reformed Church here, from a leadership top down, have completely, in my opinion, lost the plot. And I don't think they can call themselves a Christian church anymore. They've created their own religion. And I say that based on facts that I know for a fact that what they are teaching at the School of Theology, what they are rolling out in their catechism, they are effectively completely changing the Bible and preaching what they want. And that's very, very sad and heartbreaking. And I know of ministers in that organization with their local churches, they're fighting for the truth. And some have turned away from the leadership because they don't want to stand for it. But it's the top-down problem that they are creating so many problems, and it's devastating to the whole Christian community when one denomination doesn't represent Christ well. And I mean, in an ideal world, yes, we are all one in Christ. That's what the Bible teaches. We should be united. One of my favorite scriptures is Jesus praying in John 17, where he says to the Father twice, let them be one as you and I are one. My disciples and those who follow them, let them be one as you and I are one. And then twice he says, so that the world will know that you sent me. In other words, our greatest evangelical tool, according to Jesus' prayer, is unity. And so if we don't have that, we lose out. In John 13, Jesus says to his disciples, I give you a new commandment, love one another. This is how the world will know that you are my disciples, by how you love one another. Now, if you put John 13 and 17 together, it's clear that unity, brotherly love are two of the biggest signs, well, one of the biggest signs to show people that you are disciples of Jesus and to show the world that Jesus has come. And with that lacking, we have a big deficit, but we need to move towards that. And I think that's important. And when I have a local congregation and you have a local congregation, but we agree on the main things, we are still one, we are still united. We may have different local cultures and styles, but we have the same major things that we agree on. And I think that's important. Some people call it majors and minor issues. And I heard another pastor say it's closed-handed and open-handed issues. So you've got Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He died for our sins. There's the Trinity. The Word of God is the inherent Word of God. Those things are closed-handed major issues. If we agree on that, good. But then there's the open-handed stuff. There's like baptized infants, baptized adults. So for some people, that is a closed-handed issue, but it's not always. End times, eschatology. There's like 5 different theories on what's going to happen. Everybody uses the same scriptures to get to their conclusions. It's more of an open-handed thing. But so those are the things we should be able to disagree about the open-handed things, but we should agree on the closed-hand things and be able to be one in that sense.
Well, I like that description of closed-handed, open-handed. I mean, I would think of the open-handed things would be like adult baptism rather than as an infant baptism or full body immersion baptism.
Mm,
Those would be open-handed issues. I mean, they're not foundational or fundamental to Christianity. It's an interpretation or adaptation of the practices, I would say. So I think that's fair. Let's shift a little bit back to the music here, Heinz. You went on this evilly named program called Idols, and, but you obviously had a history before that. When did you start singing, and were you like a little kid, singing your favorite pop singer songs, or you weren't standing in the bathroom with a hairbrush, like a lot of little girls do. But tell us a little bit about the history of when you were a kid and how you came to music in the first place.
Wow. I think from a young age, I really enjoyed music and I was definitely drawn to pop music. I remember when I was a kid, we had these double deck uh, radios where you can listen to the top 40 on a Saturday and you could record the songs. And then you would always the DJs would do a pre-announcement and a post-announcement over the music. And we're like, no, don't talk. I want to get the intro and the outro. But they did it on purpose. So you try to record those songs. And I remember I was a huge fan of Roxette. And I listened to all the pop stuff. I'm a bit more, I don't want to actually say this, but I was listening to what's that band called? They sang Brother Louie, Louie, Louie. Na, na,
Oh yeah, yeah.
na, na.
Oh,
Anyway,
you're talking about
they had
modern
the big
talking,
hair.
modern talking.
Modern talking. Yeah, yeah.
You're
So
my heart, you're my
the,
soul.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I love modern
So those
talking.
were that's the music that I listened to a lot. And then when I was about 11, I remember there was this singing teacher at school that she kind of figured out that I could sing. And she started entering me into these competitions and I realized for the first time I can do this. And people don't run away when I sing; they actually listen. And she entered me into the school play in my when I was about 13, and that really, no, I was 12, sorry, 12. And then in high school, I was singing choir, I was singing serenade group, and then when I was about 16, I got my first guitar. I had played piano up until then, but it was this sort of very formal way of learning that I didn't like. And it made me actually, it pushed me away from music rather than pull me in. So I said, I want to learn guitar, but I'm going to teach myself. So I got a book with the chords and I taught myself. And then I really started enjoying making music. And when I was 17, 18, I started leading worship at church and at youth events. And when I got to university, I joined the church band and I formed another band with a friend of mine. And I had a file like this of cover songs, everything from oldies, but also the new stuff. Like I was singing Train from Train songs like Drops of Jupiter, and I was singing Creed, and I was singing
Wow, Creed.
all those bands that I really liked. So when I got older, I got into a bit more of the alternative stuff. And so by the time Idols came around, I had quite a catalog of songs that I was used to singing. And that really helped a lot when I got into the competition because every week there's a theme and then you have to pick a song. And once they gave the themes, I'm like, that's the song, I know, you know. So it helped a lot. I still forgot lyrics singing live on television to millions of people on a Sunday night. It's like it's nerve-wracking. But yeah, that's kind of a bit of the background. I mean, some of my favorite moments from university was I had the courage to serenade ladies that I liked, at their hostel windows. So I would go and I would sing at their windows, and all the other girls would go, "Oh, she's so lucky," so that was kind of my big thing. I could serenade the ladies. So all of that stuff was part of the preparation, I guess.
Heinz, don't feel bad about forgetting lyrics. I take pride in that I know the anthems of many of our friends, partners, and allies, and of course I salute when the U.S. anthem is played and I sing it, but I can't sing unfortunately. But I put my hand over my heart for other nations, and unfortunately when we get to the Kiwis anthem, I can start off a e a o ta, and then I forget the rest of the lyrics until we get to the English. So don't feel bad.
I don't think anyone would blame you for that. That's a tough
Now, in
one.
fact, they probably give me a hard time for even knowing any of the Kiwi for the All Blacks knowing their anthem. But
But can
excuse
you
me.
sing can you sing South Africa's?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Wow, that's
Ozukile
impressive.
Afriko
Well done.
Maholo. Anyway. Yeah, no, I do know it. I do know it. Actually, the hardest part for me was the Afrikaans portion because you've got the G in there. That
Yeah.
it comes in there. When you get to that next to last, the penultimate sentence in the Afrikaans version. But no, I sing it with pride all the time. I do, of course, I do rugby broadcast on Rugby Ascendant, and when they play the anthem, I'm usually singing it. I can't look. One of the disappointments in my life is I was in church in the choir, and I was very good and I could sing quite well, and then
Okay.
puberty struck, and I went from being very good in church to thank you, Chris, but perhaps you've got something else to do
Uh,
this Sunday,
that's
that sort
funny.
of thing. So I cannot sing, and I'm aware of that. I'm quite well aware of that. I've never been able to sing, but it sucks because I love music and
Okay.
so anyway, but anyway, no.
Nothing wrong
So
with that.
well, there's something wrong with hearing me sing because the cats will run for the hills. They
No, but I
definitely.
mean, you can just enjoy music as well. That's fine. Yeah.
I was actually and I hate karaoke because people are horrible at it. But I was actually at a conference in Garmisch a few years ago, and I was a senior guy as a colonel, and all the younger people that I knew, they're like, "Hey, why don't you come out tonight? We're all going to hang out down here at the German place." So I walked there rather than drive. It was about a kilometer, and I came in and they're at karaoke. I'm like, "Oh gosh!" And of course, the typical Americans, they've got to play Journey or AC/DC for it. And
Yeah.
then and then
Yeah.
finally, I had a Weizen, and German beers are pretty big, and I'm kind of loosening up a little bit there. And I'm like, okay, let me see. I'll just go because they're kind of get me to do it. And I'm like, I hate karaoke. So I went and looked through the book, and they had German
Yeah.
songs, and they had Klaus Lagerband, and they had Thousand and One Night, and I love that song. That was a song that I was introduced to back in 1984 when I first went to Germany. So I got up there,
Okay.
and I did it, and with the music, I didn't sound too bad. Du wolltest dir bloß den Abend vertreiben. And it was fantastic, man.
Well done. That's amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. So it was pretty good. But yeah, but it's my only claim to fame when it comes to music. Beyond that, I just suck. It's just terrible. So, but
That's so
you talk
funny.
about modern talking. I was in Germany and we had what's her name, Sandra, who had Maria Magdalena, that was a huge hit, and some other songs, Creature
Yeah.
Comforts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you had Nena, of course. I've been a Nena fan. She did children's music later.
Okay.
And she was even bigger than, wasn't bigger when she was Nena, but when she went solo, she was big. But then when she did children's music, that really became huge when she became a mom. And I think that's a trend
Okay.
too. A lot of artists, once they have kids later in life, will do children's music too.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
So
course.
Nena, Scorpions were huge back then. Bop, Klaus Lager, Rago Monotones, and of course the one song that will never go away. The only claim to fame is the Austrian band Opus. La 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 life. That song will never go
Life
away.
is life.
Exactly. I mean, the most
Yeah.
most elementary of lyrics, but those guys are still doing it in their 70s, performing that song now. But
Oh, wow.
German music in the 80s was just incredible. And you talk about
Yeah.
modern talking was more the 80s shift to the 90s. They went, but Cherry Cherry Lady, and of course, you're my heart, you're my soul was their first big one.
Yeah.
And the one guy still performs. He comes to South Africa periodically. I think he was there just last year, early this year, performing.
I remember something like that, yeah, that he
Yeah.
was here, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, I think it was this year actually, because when I was in South Africa most recently, my friend from Somerset West, well, from Gordons Bay, invited me to Andrea Bocelli. Oh, that was a treat.
Oh, I saw him at Val a couple of years ago. Incredible. Such a thing to hear live. It's nothing like it.
Yeah, no,
He's really something.
he was unbelievable, and I think he's wrapping up his career. He's not going to do many more public performances, so I was very fortunate. Okay, two things in the chat I've got to discuss very quickly. Okay,
All right.
Charles van Onselen, the voice of reason for this channel, is correct. I am negligent. My favorite German performer, and of course, the guy introduced rap to German was Falco, who died a tragic death in a traffic accident in Costa Rica at the age of 40. But Rock Me Amadeus, everything by Falco was amazing. And then David Hasselhoff. Bleh. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
David Hasselhoff, yes, please.
The
He
Germans
was big in
abs.
Japan with his music.
I forgot about them. That's Alphaville, big in Japan. Oh my goodness, that's
Big in Japan.
another German band. They were incredible too. Wow. So when I went to Japan for the World Cup in 2019, I was like, big in Japan, and people were like, huh? Like, you guys forgot about this song? Oh my
I don't think it
goodness.
made it all the way there.
Yeah, no, I don't think it did, but it's funny. So, Heinz, do you still do pop music? Will you ever do that? Are you going back to it? I mean, can people ever see you perform it again?
At the moment, I'd never say never, but at the moment, I don't think so. I had a special request for an event that I'm doing later this month, where I will, dust off some of my Afrikaans songs and do them for the first time in a while. Because it's a special event that's happening in Joburg where they are doing a fundraising for children, and they asked if I could do that. So I'll do that. So every now and again, yes, I don't mind. I like singing. I like singing my songs. It's just not my focus right now. So. And if you haven't released anything new in a while, then those kinds of gigs they dry up. But I do get a lot of requests for the to share my Christian music, to go and share my testimony, and that's that kind of stuff I do now as well. But yeah, I to be honest with you, I start every year by going, what do I want to achieve this year? What are my goals? And I do it prayerfully. And for this year, I was like, Lord, do you want me to write? Do you want me to make an album? What's the focus? And I just felt that there's a pause on that for now. And the focus was this year creatively was to do my podcast, the In Hindsight Boldcast. So that's been sort of my creative focus this year and for the foreseeable future. I'm really enjoying doing that. And I do a lot of video production as well. I work with my team at church. We do a lot of the graphics and the video stuff. So I'm kind of creatively pouring myself more into that. Always something creative we're doing. And every message I do that I'm led to do, we do try to do it in a creative way. We try and give it imagery and pictures that help people remember it. And I try to align the right songs with the right message. So all of that stuff, I still feel my creative juices flow every week. Yeah.
Well, Heinz, you interviewed me a few weeks back, and that's how we got to know each other. I want to come back to that in
Yeah.
a few minutes, but before I get to that, I want to bring up a topic that's kind of controversial with some artists. I don't know if it'll be controversial with you. And I am a well-known opponent of artificial intelligence. I don't like Skynet. I worry that autonomous machines will end the Earth. It's bad enough humans are involved, but
Yeah, you're like, I saw the movie. This is kind of playing out
exactly.
right now.
I saw all the movies, every one of them,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
never ends well. And as soon as you think it's
Yeah.
over, they come right back. Okay, but
And
seriously,
we actually
yeah,
in Somerset West and in this area we have a courier company called Skynet with a massive
I've
logo.
seen it.
It's so funny. Anyway, sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. It's so ironically, when the refugee thing kicked off a few months back, one of my viewers in Spain, who's a South African, used artificial intelligence to make a song, a tribute to me, which was very touching. And I put images of people I met in my career in it, and it's been very popular. The Colonel's
Wow.
anthem. Anyway, and so it got me to thinking. And now I got to give credit because Ronaldo's feelings will be hurt if I don't mention that over a year ago he pointed out an artificial intelligence music generator called Suno, and I kind of listened. It went one ear and right out the other ear because I hate AI. But anyway, so Ronaldo wasn't the inspiration, but he did introduce me to it. So let's be clear. But this young lady, I was really impressed with it. So I went, and when I was in South Africa, I arrived. I was in Gordons Bay, and of course, I didn't announce my arrival because I've been getting threats, and so I just came to South Africa. And then once I was there, I scheduled a meet and greet. 150 people showed up at the meet and greet at Strand. It was amazing. But I wrote a song using AI called "Save South Africa," and it went over
Wow.
very well. It was amazing. And so then I started. And then my viewers are like, why don't you have a Spotify account? I'm like, well, because I have no musical talent. I can't sing. I can't play any instruments. I tried to learn percussion when I was a kid, and it was terrible. But I do have a flair for coming up with concepts and themes and lyrics. And
Lyrics.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so I've been using that, and now I have a Spotify account. I have an account of Weezer and 23 different sites, and it's DJ Silver Eagle. I don't know. What are your thoughts about
Wow.
AI music? Because I know some people see it as a threat, but I stick mostly to the genres of country because it works really well for the themes and reggae. But I have also delved into rock and some other things. I mean, any thoughts on artificial intelligence and music generation? Because a lot of people are diametrically opposed. But I tell you, some of the songs that I've generated with Suno have been unbelievable, fantastic. I'd love to get an artist to actually perform them. Maybe Steve will do it for me.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what we should think about it. The fact is it's here to stay. It's possible. I can still hear when something is AI. I can pick it up. It's almost like seeing an AI photo. You can still, if you pay attention, you can still notice it. So as a musician, I can hear when something was AI generated. But I know the time will come when you can't really tell the difference anymore, and most people already can't really tell the difference, and it is kind of crazy. I think it'll probably replace a lot of stuff. But when I look at trends over the last, 2 decades, 3 decades, normally when there's a big shift, there are people who lose the stuff and who don't deal well with it. That always happens. But then there are those who take the opportunity and they run with it. And I think we'll see both. We'll see some artists whose careers will end because of it, because they don't know how to adapt. And then there will be those who are going to embrace it and make the most of it. And they will probably find a way to thrive. There's always the two sort of polar opposites. And then there's those who are caught in the middle. The music industry, since the dawn of MP3s and Nasper, it's never been the same. And I remember still making really good money out of selling CDs. Um, that that will never come again, unfortunately. It's you only make money now if you stream a couple of million on a track. Otherwise, you make sense. And so it's for the longest time, even when I was still full on in the industry, we didn't depend on royalties. We depended on live shows. So I think no matter how good AI gets, I think what we will see is a still people wanting to come to live shows with real artists singing real music. I think we will see a shift to that, especially since COVID still. I think people are like only so happy that they can go to a live event and hear real music. So I think we'll see probably the live music scene go forward and do better even maybe. But I think we'll see a lot more AI music play, and we'll have to see what time will tell, whether that connects with people or not. But music that really connects and lasts long typically connects with people's soul.
Mm.
And the question I would ask is, does AI generated music connect to your soul? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how it came out.
No,
But
I think you're right about that.
I would like to think that a human voice with lyrics that come from your heart will always connect better than anything artificial.
No, I think you summed up very well. I just went to Shania Twain concert. It was unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
Their voice isn't what it was 25 years ago, but still pretty entertaining.
Cool.
And there were thousands of people there. So I think you're right. Live performances are something that can't be replicated. And I think
Yeah.
that's, excuse me, the CD sales went away some time ago anyway. I mean, Musica folded up its tent in South Africa because of COVID, and you can't buy
Yeah.
CDs unless you get it from an artist anymore. But some people are exposing their age. Cornelius Volkskenk, you say in Afrikaans Volkskenk, but it's actually,
Yeah.
you're of German descent, so it's Volkskenk. But Cornelius Volkskenk will says he's going to give my age away if I mention Rabbit, Hotline, and Mango Grove. No, you just confused me. I have no idea who those people are. I don't know. Definitely before my time. Sorry about that, Cornelius. And then somebody mentioned, is it Neil? You already mentioned David Scobie and John Ireland. Well, those are names I know. Taking the easy way home, David Scobie from Rhodesia / Zimbabwe. Yeah, been trying to reach him for years, and his contact, his website went away. He's still alive, as far as I know, and performing up in Scotland. And his son is also a musician now, I believe, too. So
Okay.
before we wrap up, Heinz, I just want to get to. So I was curious because you did an interview with me, and I think the title was something along the lines of "Surprisingly Funny or Entertaining Colonel Wyatt." Was that the title of it? I mean, did that surprise you? And how did you come to know about me? And why did you ask me to come on your program? I was curious about that because I'm not exactly well known for being a born again Christian, so I figured that's not why you invited me on. Not that I'm an evil reprobate or anything like that, but that's not something I talk about publicly because to me, relationship with God is a personal thing. But I mean, how did I come on your radar and where did that all come from?
Well, it was Rob Hersoff that I got to interview him on my podcast, and as I asked him, "Hey, who should I get on my show, do you think?" And he gave me a bunch of names, and yours was one of them. And by that time, I had already watched a few of your videos, and I didn't know you well, but I knew of you, and I was confused about this American that knows so much about South Africa and actually can speak Afrikaans and understands rugby, and
No,
it
no,
was
no.
very,
Ik
it was
praat nie
very
Afrikaans nie.
strange.
Ik praat nie Afrikaans nie.
You can understand it.
Yes, true. That's true.
That's literally how it went. I think I got your number from him, and I invited you, and thank God you said yes. So yeah, that was a great episode. I love it, and I described it as I experienced you. So I thought you were very funny.
No, thanks. I like to think so too, but not everyone does. Some people, yeah. No, I'm a strong cup of tea for some people, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And we've talked, and I think that you should be strong in your convictions. If you believe in something, you should believe in something, and not
Yeah.
not dance around it. And so, I mean, I believe in the things I believe in, the traditional liberal
Mm.
values of freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. And those are things I believe in, and I stand for those things. And I've spent my
Good.
life all over the world defending those things for all kinds of people. But Heights, I apologize for the technical issues we've had, and to the audience for the microphone issues on my end.
No
I
worries.
think I fixed it now, but I think we should do this again if you want on your channel, and certainly on my channel when I'm in my studio and we've got proper setup there. And then the only thing we have to worry about is SCOM. Wait, no, I don't have SCOM. You have SCOM.
I've got a few battery packs. We'll make it work.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Heinz, I always give my guests the final word. Well, that's not true. I give you a final opportunity to speak, and then I speak after you go off air. But so you're not really the final word, but I'm gonna give you a chance. Anything you'd like to share with folks. And before you go, I just want to say this. One of the viewers asked if it's possible to live stream your church services for people that can't make it to Somerset West. I don't know if your congregation would like that, or maybe the camera can be focused up front or something like that. But maybe that's something to consider, live broadcasting your services. Just a thought.
We've been live streaming since the beginning, basically. So everything's live streamed on Sundays. So you can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Just search for Love Key Church, and you'll find our channels and platforms. And we live stream South African time 9:30 on Sunday mornings. But it stays there, so you can go back and we also, if you just want to hear the messages, they are there. So we have the live stream, and then there are the message only videos as well. And on my socials, you will be able to catch little snippets of our messages and moments that we created. We also, for example, did like a commemoration vigil for Charlie Kirk on Sunday. So there's stuff like that you can check out. So yeah, YouTube channel, Love Key Church live stream We have actually have quite a few Americans who tune in on Sundays. They wake up early to be able to watch our services. I'm always amazed. Like it's really cool. And we have people from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and then we all our messages are also on our church's podcast, Love Key Church. So you can find if you prefer to listen, you can do that as well.
Well, that's brilliant. So you've had that idea all along. You've been broadcasting all along. So I just think people just know it. So there you go. That's where you find it, folks. So I want to thank my
Yeah.
guest Heinz, and I want to thank my excuse me, thank my audience for putting up with the frustrations here. With just to just explain, my software was stealing my camera, and I couldn't shut it down. I deleted every camera that was set up in the software, and it was still turning on the camera, so I couldn't get the camera on for Zoom. And then I got the camera turned on, and Zoom is picking up the microphone fine, but you guys aren't hearing it fine. So anyway, so that's just kind of how stuff goes. But anyway, thanks a lot for everybody who subscribed. Thanks for the super chats that came in, for the questions you had, and for exposing your age with the artists you listened to growing up. First, all of us. Heinz, bye bye, Donkey. It's a pleasure. I'll ask you to stay on for just a moment so you and I can chat once we go off air, okay?
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
All right, folks, so we're going to wrap it up here then. And here's the closing credits. And I'll be back with the news later today. And then after the news, I've got Ronaldo. It's Wednesdays with the Colonel. And then my radio program later tonight. And then tomorrow, I'm headed off to the airport to fly out Friday. So we'll catch you guys here shortly. Thanks for being with us. And I'll be talking to Heinz in just a moment.